This is Bunny, a BCom graduate who wanted to pursue an MBA, and he started watching some really bad content creator who used to talk about MBA, CAT preparation, and he was really inspired to do an MBA program. However, then he saw these startup founders, billionaires who told him why pursuing an MBA is worthless. And obviously they must be right because they have money. So he decided to drop the MBA program. However, right when he was about to drop, the OG influencer turned in. His Bhua, whose son had pursued an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and got a 40 lakh job offer. So naturally, he had to appear for the CAT examination. He tried for IIM Ahmedabad. However, his profile was not good enough and he was not so capable of scoring a 99 percentile in CAT, and that is something he always knew. So he could get into a tier 2 or a tier 3 institutions, but IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta kind of colleges were not possible. However, he heard other people tell him that only tier 1 MBAs are worth it. Tier 2, Tier 3 MBAs, no one even touches them. So Bunny decided to go for a job. He started with a 3.2 LPA job offer because jobs were not available in plenty for his degree, but in 5 years he managed to grow his salary to 14 lakhs per annum. Right then, he met one of his college friends who had pursued an MBA 5 years ago from a tier 2 institution. His starting package was 10 lakhs. However, in 5 years, he has managed to grow his salary to 35 lakhs per annum. And now this makes Bunny wonder, should he have pursued an MBA degree? Was not pursuing MBA a mistake at his end? So who was wrong and who was right in this scenario? What Bunny failed to understand is everything is coming from personal experiences, what shaped their way of life. Rather, he should not have taken all the arguments at face value. He should have tried to understand the logic from where the arguments are coming, from whom the arguments are coming. And then based on those logics, he should have evaluated what does he want to do in life, what are his options, what are his capabilities, and then taken a decision. And that's exactly what we will start decoding in this video. This video will not give you the answer whether you should pursue an MBA or not. Rather, it will give you some logic under which you can evaluate your options. And we'll start with why startup founders hate MBA graduates. So for the startup founders, obviously they are creating a lot of value in the ecosystem and they are learning a lot of things on the job. What they see is no one could have taught, no degree could have taught them those skills that they are acquiring while working at a startup or while running their startup. And obviously they are billionaires and earning a lot of money, so they are doing good for themselves as well. They don't see the value in someone going for an MBA program then ending up as a consultant at McKinsey or an investment banker at JP Morgan, because they obviously believe that they are creating more value in the ecosystem. However, it might be difficult for you to understand their perspective because obviously they are outliers. But let me decode this in your language so that it becomes easy for you. I'm pretty sure some of you would be convinced with the idea that you should pursue MBA only from tier 1 institutions, tier 2, tier 3, ads, short scams only. But what if I tell you that people pursuing MBA from tier 1 institutions are also outliers? There are almost 2 lakh, 3 lakh MBA aspirants, and out of that, less than 10,000 get a seat in tier 1 institutions. What happens to the rest of them? They obviously pursue their career, they go to tier 2, tier 3 institutions, make their career, and it might be difficult for you to digest, but the idea is when you say that tier 1 institutions are worth it, tier 2, tier 3, no one should go to those institutions, you're also part of the same crowd like those billionaires are for the entire MBA ecosystem. Even I had the same opinion in 2021 when I was pursuing my MBA. I thought that you should pursue from IIM Ahmedabad only. In fact, I had not gone into IIM Indore. So definitely for me, IIM A, B, C, these are the institutions that made sense, only institutions that made sense. However, when you understand the ground reality, it starts changing because not everyone comes with that privileged mindset. Not everyone comes with that privileged background. For example, someone who has pursued undergraduation from a tier 2, tier 3 institution does not have great profile, does not have great network as well. They need to start their career somewhere. And can they get a job? Honestly, after 16 years of school, 3-4 years of undergraduation, our system is still not robust enough to get them a job. Even if they get a job, 3 lakh, 4 lakh, a job like that also is a luxury in today's world. So you're not getting a job, you're not getting into tier 1 institutions, maybe you're not capable enough to crack the examination, or you don't have that profile to get into such institutions. Now what do? Do you just give up on life, just leave everything and go away? Obviously not. They would want to start their career somewhere if they don't have family wealth, power, connection. They want to to start their career somewhere, even if it means pursuing MBA from a tier 2, tier 3 institution, starting their job at 7, 8, 9 LPA after giving 15 lakh fees in their MBA program and taking an education loan. But they need to start somewhere. After that, only in 8, 9 years, they will reach somewhere. Maybe a tier 1 institution grad would have reached there in 2, 3 years, but they would have reached there in 8 or 9 years, but at least they would have reached there. And for to reach there, obviously you have to start somewhere, and even if that means starting at a 7, 8, 9 LPA after your MBA program. So now I believe you should understand why a billionaire making fun of the entire MBA ecosystem disturbs you, because that was his reality and not yours. Whereas someone making fun of tier 2, tier 3 MBA graduates is perfectly fine for you, because that's not your reality. Again, your reality is that of tier 1 MBA, and that this is something that you should understand while listening to anyone, that their reality might not be yours. That does not mean it should affect you, or that does not mean you should get offended by their views. But now let's decode another thing why startup founders further hate MBA graduates. It's because of the nature of the skills that MBA graduates possess. Usually these startup founders are looking for people who can hit the ground running from day one. So rather than hiring an expensive tier 1 MBA graduate, they would rather prefer someone with 6 or 7 years of experience who can hit the ground running from day one and comes at the same salary like a tier 1 MBA graduate who needs a lot of training, obviously. But then are the MNCs foolish to take these tier 1 MBA graduates? Does that not mean that MBA is worthless? The idea is it's very different from MNCs. They are looking at it from a very long-term perspective. They are not thinking about 5 years, 10 years. They are thinking about 20 years, 25 years, and they are investing in future potential. When a consultant is hired at McKinsey, first 4, 5 years, honestly, he is not worth that much. However, after a few years, the people who stay at that particular firm end up becoming partners. They bring in a lot of revenue, and that is the value creation that these firms are looking at. After 7, 8 years, they start creating some value for the firm, and in 15, 20 years, those people who stay back at the firm create exponential value. So ask a partner at McKinsey or an investment banker at JP Morgan or a brand manager at HUL. They will tell you how important MBA was to get that particular job, and how important MBA is to get into their specific roles. And then you will get your answer whether it is worth pursuing an MBA if you want to go for a job. But obviously, it does not mean that it suits everyone. Now, let me tell you, for those people who should not be going for an MBA program. Now, people often measure ROI of MBA in terms of fees divided by placement, but that's a very, very bad perspective. Fees, honestly, is a very small concern, because your career is not going to be just 1 year after your MBA. It's not going to be your starting package. It's going to be a 10, 15, 20 years. Now, if you draw your salary for those 20 years, the fees is very, very negligible. Rather, the true cost of MBA, I believe, are the 2 years that you're going to give to that particular program. And in those 2 years, you could have done a lot of other things. You could have upskilled in your job. You could have, if you want to pursue an entrepreneurship program, if you just want to go to start your business, you could have pursued that as well. There are a lot of things that you could have done in those 2 years of your prime years. For that 2 years that you have given to your MBA program, could you have done something different which would have brought you more value? That is the option that you need to evaluate. For example, if you already have an idea and you have already started your business, you are making revenue as well, and you have investors in your business, I would definitely not recommend you to go for an MBA program, because running a business will teach you a lot more things. So if you have already got that idea, definitely don't go for an MBA program. If you're someone who wants to pursue his passion and is really, really into it, for example, singing, or maybe you're running an Instagram page and you are a good dancer, you are good at sports, or whatever it is, and you are truly pursuing it, and you know that in the next 2 years you can pursue it, then probably you should take that chance. Because MBA, whatever anyone says, it's a safe option, which means you don't get exponential returns out of it, but at the same time, you kind of get a safety bucket as well. That is, okay, you will be earning this much, at least the average package of every institution that you see, you will be earning that much. But it does not mean that your starting salary can suddenly be 1 crore, 2 crore, and so on, which can happen in business, which can happen if you take a somewhat non-traditional path like pursuing a passion in singing or whatever. It can happen in those areas, but cannot happen to an MBA graduate suddenly. MBA salaries peak when you're 40, 45, and that is the consideration that you need to make as well. So if you think that you can do something better than the 2 years of your MBA program, then just go for it. But if you think that, oh, in future I will do something really great, MBA I don't need to pursue, but while your current reality is that you're just watching Netflix, you're just doing the mundane task at your job every day, day in and day out, then probably MBA would be a great option for you. A 23-year-old Anant, if I had to recommend something to him, I would have said definitely go for an MBA program again, because all that I would have done was every day went to the same company, did the same kind of projects. I would have upskilled, definitely. I would have upskilled on the job. I would have learned a lot of things, but ultimately my salary would not have increased exponentially, because ultimately I was in that particular job not upskilling myself in a very different dimension, rather upskilling what I was learning on the job itself. So that's why I would have pursued the same job day in and day out. My salary would have increased in the traditional way, not exponentially, just like it did after an MBA program. Next, when someone says instead of spending so much on your MBA, you should rather go and pursue a business because you can invest the same amount in your business and get exponential returns. Please let me remind you, this is not how it looks. First, for pursuing education, you get education loan, and for pursuing business, you get business loan. The criteria of having the two are very different. Education loan, the interest rate is very different. The eligibility criteria is very different. You don't really need to put all the collaterals and everything. In some cases, obviously, depending on your institution, you might need to. But at the end of the day, the criteria for getting sanctioned a business loan is very, very different. Your business should have that kind of a feasibility. The bank should trust your business has the ability to return that kind of money. So that's why getting a business loan is not same as getting an education loan. And that's why just because you're spending 25 lakhs on an MBA program, it does not mean the same as spending 25 lakhs on a business. And business is far more risky. Don't let someone misguide you that you won't get a job after your MBA. It's risky. If you're really worried that you will be in the bottom 30-40% of a tier 3 institution, then you should be really worried about succeeding in business, because probably just 1-2% out of so many people become successful in business. So 1-2% in the entire country versus being someone who is at the bottom 30-40% of a tier 3 institution. You can understand which is going to give you a better risk or a greater risk. So that's why don't go into that fundamental idea that this is more risky. Spending on MBA, fees on MBA is the same as spending it on business. It's absolutely not the same. Yes, MBA cannot give you that exponential return that business can, as I just said, because more risk means more return. So business gives you more risk, but at the same time you get more return out of it as well. And that's why I say a lot of time it depends on your privilege as well. If your family is well off, if you know that your family doesn't depend on your income and they can survive for a few more years, then probably those are the people who are able to take that risk as well. However, for the other people, they would want to pursue an MBA program, get their family settled first. Once they know that they have enough, then they can take that risk of pursuing a business. Remember, business can give you more returns than an MBA program, but it is more risky as well. So no one can generalize whether MBA is worth it or not. Only you can tell yourself whether MBA will be worth it for you or not. If you want to go for a job, probably MBA might be worth it. If you want to pursue some other career, maybe it is not worth it. If you're already pursuing a great job, maybe MBA from tier 2, tier 3 institutions might not be worth it. And if you're not already in a specific job, maybe even tier 2, tier 3 institutions might be great options for you. So only you can tell yourself with these logic whether MBA is worth it for you or not. And please stop getting offended from other people saying a generalized statement. It might not apply to everyone, and it does not apply to everyone, and you should know it better.